in investing with free trade.
When you invest, your capital is at risk and the value of your investments can go down as well as up. Terms and eligibility criteria apply. Other charges may apply.
Anybody want a stripy jacket?
The bliss after a long walk on a chilly day. Opening the front door and feeling that rush of warm air send a tingle through your cheeks. At Swale Heating, we help you stay warm. It's why we offer smart thermostats from top manufacturers like Worcester Bosch, so you can switch on the heating when you're close to home and always walk into a lovely toasty house. Visit swaleheating.com.
Announcing that there will be no new restrictions in England, at least until New Year.
breed, but there are, of course, particularly concerned about pit bull types and others. If we're being cautionary, if we're being sort of taking a precautionary approach, you would say, well, actually, does anyone need to own a pit bull? Why can't they get another type of dog? Why do people want these sorts of dogs?
Right, because of the pit bull type dog, a Staffordshire Terrier comes with a Labrador very often be classed as a pit bull type. People do not realise it just gets crossbred puppies, and it's a lot of people with these puppies are growing up to look pit bull type.
So it's not just people saying, I want a pit bull, I want a bull mastiff or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
okay.
a lot of people who do understand they do do breed-specific legislation until their dogs are seized. The police will turn up if you report that a neighbour has a dog they think is a land breed. The police will turn up on that. We can get about 12 feet with live shields and everything to take this dog that's never harmed a soul. Now, you report a murder ready to the policeman, and you'd be lucky to have somebody turn up. It's just not. As far as pit bull, actual American pit bull terriers, which is the only recognised breed, is concerned, they were originally bred fighting dogs. I mean, that's been illegal now for so long that very few of them, thankfully, are in that kind of arena. But they were also bred to be human friendly. You have to have two handlers and a referee in the pit with a dog. You could not afford for any dog to be human aggressive. So although they are bred for fighting, they are also bred genetically to be not human aggressive.
Right, Jane, fascinating to speak to you. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your time this evening. Trev says on text, right Ben, why do people feel the need to choose these breeds? Sound like a waste of resources when the police could be better employed. Trev, agree with you. That was my question. Jane saying, well, actually, a lot of people don't know that they are buying these breeds because they're crossbreeds and so on. Although I still suspect that there are people out there that want a certain breed of dog, want a staffy, want a pit bull type, so on. And I do think you're right to say, really, does anybody need to own that sort of dog? We're going to continue this in just a minute. We will speak to Elaine, we'll speak to Andy, we'll speak to Mary in Penge. We're also going to be speaking to Wes Streeting, Labour's Shadow Health Secretary, to get Labour's response to Sajid Javid's announcement that no new restrictions will be introduced in England, at least for now. For now, though, let's get some news headlines, which at 6:31 come from Tim Humphrey.
The Health Secretary says the Prime Minister won't announce any further COVID restrictions in England before the new year after being briefed on the latest data. Tougher rules have come into effect in the other three nations of the United Kingdom. The NHS in England says more than 12,000 COVID vaccinations were given on Christmas Day, a further 24,000 were done on Boxing Day. The Business Secretary has met energy bosses to address rapidly rising gas and electricity prices. Last week, the industry's trade bill warned consumer bills could increase by a further 50%. The weather showers clearing the southeast tonight, but rain arriving in central UK as we head to the morning, dry in the north and in Scotland with a potential frost, a low of -1.
LBC into 2022. I'm Sheila Fogarty, and thank you for sharing your stories with me on LBC over the last 12 months. So, how is your family? Because, you're obviously enraged by events, but you're a family in grief still.
From the 1st of January, you can't. You've got to do it goods into the country. So I'm starting right now. To get your business moving, visit go.uk/import goods into UK.
The bliss after a long walk on a chilly day. Opening the front door and feeling that rush of warm air send a tingle through your cheeks. At Swale Heating, we help you stay warm. It's why we offer smart thermostats from top manufacturers like Mr. Bosch, so you can switch on the heating when you're close to home and always walk into a lovely toasty house. Visit swaleheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm. There's a revolution happening. A different way to sell your home. All across the country, people are discovering
which is as a constructive opposition, sometimes critical, but we try to keep on the constructive side of criticism. And in the end, you know, with the decision about restrictions at this stage before the new year or even into the new year, it really is about balancing risk and making a calculation about whether or not the NHS and other public services can withstand the pressure of Omicron despite the sky high rates. And that's what we're trying to test here in a constructive way, trying not to get into a party political kind of slanging match with the government. But as I say, I think the anxiety that we have is we know that Boris Johnson's position was not strong going into Christmas. We've seen throughout the you know, you only to open a newspaper on Boxing Day to find in every newspaper different contenders for the Conservative leadership, sort of showing you know, the Conservative Party membership a bit of leg in terms of where they are on restrictions. So we know that the debate about public health measures has become a kind of an issue inside the Conservative Party, and that's why, as I say, we want reassurance that the government is taking the right decision for the right reasons. We don't have a lot of faith and trust in Boris Johnson at the moment. We do have trust and faith in scientific advice and scientific advisors, and I have to say, when I've dealt with Sajid Javid, the Health Secretary, publicly and privately on COVID, we've had a decent working relationship. I want that to continue, and as I say, I think the thing that the government ought to give the public at this stage, alongside the good news that there'll be no restrictions, which I think people would be pleased about, is just that reassurance to know that it is the right decision being made for the right reason, and that in the new year we don't wake up with a different kind of January hangover than the one we're accustomed to in the new year.
Well, just finally, if Boris Johnson does decide in the coming days that more restrictions are needed, given, as you say, the significant rebellion amongst Tory MPs just a couple of weeks ago, he would likely need the support of your party. Is that support guaranteed if he decides that restrictions are in the national interest? Will you take his word for that?
As long as the scientific advice and the data supports it, yes. And in fact, one of the reasons why in that crunch vote in Parliament before the Christmas recess, when Labour votes were you know, the clinching factor of making sure the government could get measures over the line, the reason why we were so upfront about our support was that we knew he had that internal pressure within his party, and we didn't want the Prime Minister to have to capitulate to pressure within his own party and put party pressures before public health. So that's the approach we're going to continue to take. That doesn't mean we're not pushing the government to go further on a whole range of things. For example, we would like them to increase statutory sick pay so that people who are forced to isolate can do so. We want them to keep a really sharp eye on the pressure facing particularly hospitality businesses, but also other industries like the aviation and airline industries that have taken a real battering. And of course on schools, yeah, making sure we're getting young people vaccinated at a far higher rate than we're currently seeing, at a far higher pace than we're currently seeing, and also school ventilation systems as well, to make sure schools are as safe and secure as possible, because in the end we know that there will be new variants down the track. We know that COVID is here to stay as a virus. The goal that we all share is making sure that we can live well alongside the virus, and that means having a good vaccine take-up, having good antiviral treatments for COVID, but also having in place measures like ventilation, which don't impact on people's lives or livelihoods or liberties, but do help us to coexist with an airborne disease like COVID.
Wes, thanks for your time this evening. Happy Christmas and have a good New Year. Wes Streeting there, Shadow Health Secretary and Labour MP for Ilford North. Great to speak to you tonight. Let's get back to your calls and texts on dangerous dogs. Alan says he was attacked by a staffy. He says, trust me, it's terrifying how powerful these dogs can be. He says, if poodles were the only breed allowed, how many kids would get seriously mauled? We all know that in general, certain people see certain dogs as status symbols because of the dog's fearsome reputation. With dangerous weapons, we need a license. I would say we need a license for all dogs, Alan. Not just for the protection of people who, yes, may be harmed by this dog, but also for the dog's protection, because owners have a big responsibility, and I suspect too many people aren't taking that responsibility seriously. So I am in favour of licences. Let's see what Brian in Bromley thinks. Brian, you're a new caller. Welcome. What do you think?
Hello, Ben. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, well, licences, yes. I do believe so. But, as I say, me and my partner, Eli, we have a spare Mastiff which we're rescued. 3 foot high.
Mm.
She is the softest dog you could ever imagine. Yeah. And these dogs, when people see her, they jump. It's not like she wants to play with people all the time and they get scared because she's a big dog.
Mm.
And now, we've got a Yorkshire Terrier, not a Yorkshire Terrier, it's a Yorkshire Terrier, I think she is, yeah, she's so tiny. And they're both rescue dogs, they're absolutely fine. I mean, I've took them to the park down in Downham.
Mm.
I mean, we've had Dobermans, Bull Mastiffs attack them both. I mean, I've had it, my partner's had it, Elaine,
Yeah.
you know.
Have you ever had a poodle attack one?
No, we've had,
Or a Labrador?
no.
So there is an issue, isn't there, Brian, with certain breeds then?
I don't think so. I mean, I've had Staffordshire Bull Terriers. My partner's daughters have both got dogs.
Mm.
One's got a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, absolutely fine. My other partner's daughter, she's got two, I think they're called Shih Tzus.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
dogs. She rescued those, they're absolutely fine.
What's the attraction, Brian, of owning something like a Staffy, do you think?
But they're just lovely. They're absolutely soft. They're soft animals.
Yeah.
My partner Elaine, we had a pit bull many years ago in the 80s. Absolute beautiful dog. Wouldn't hurt a fly. I mean, I've had Dobermans up the park. That one's better than Mastiff. She just goes on the floor.
So do you think the owners are the issue rather than the breed? Do you agree with me that there needs to be some sort of license, some sort of
I
education?
think there's a lot to do with, to me, there's a lot to do with lead control.
With what, sorry?
Lead control.
Right.
Dogs on leads.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people that just let their dogs run off, and you've got your two dogs on a lead.
Yeah.
And they come running